Hello everyone, this is going to be a quick video on how to rebuild one of these hydraulic cylinders off of a older Mercury outboard. This came off of a Mercury 1150 with the power trim tilt, and I could not find a whole lot of information on how to rebuild these. After searching around, I discovered the correct kit to buy. There's not many available, so in the future there might be none available, so you might have to source all these O-rings by hand instead of buying the kits. Now there are two different sizes. There is a 1 inch and 3/4 inch. And that is the measurement of the ram here. So this is the 1 inch model. So make sure you're buying the appropriate kit for the size ram that you have. This is the kit for the 1 inch model. 48664 Alpha 1. And this is the kit for the 3/4 inch model. 64507 Alpha 1. So some of the O-rings are cross-compatible, but the ones that probably matter the most are not. And I will show you which ones are not and which ones are. So right off the bat, you're going to need to get this off. You have to get this out of here. And to do that, put this in a vise, and then get yourself a spanner tool like this one. You can get these from Amazon. This is adjustable. Comes with different inserts for different size holes. And essentially, you have it in the vise, and you put these dowels in the holes. And using a ratchet, by putting in one of those, you twist it off. So once you broke it free, you can now remove it by hand. Now you have two parts separated. So next, you'll probably want to take all these plugs out of here and give this a really good cleaning. And there is an O-ring down deep in there that you'll also need to replace. It comes with the kit. But I highly suggest cleaning everything really good while you have the opportunity. So next, I want to take this tube off of here. To do that, just give it some twists and pull, and you'll be able to pull it right off, hopefully without much effort. Next, you'll want to break this bolt free using a 15/16 socket. Break that free. Take this off the rest of the way. Now you can discard this. I'm going to keep mine, but the kit comes with a new one of these and the seals and O-rings. So set that aside and slide this off of here, like so. You'll probably also want to take the opportunity to clean this up really good while you have it out. And now, start taking the O-rings off of this. Now, there is an O-ring in here, as well as these 4 out here. So just take a little pick tool, start pulling the rings off, and line them up. This is what I did to figure out which was which. So I start pulling the O-rings off, and then I line them up from big to small. So these outer O-rings do work from both kits, the 1 inch and 3/4. It's this one that goes in the center on the inside that is different. And probably one of the more important ones. I believe when this O-ring goes bad, that's when it starts leaking from the top like mine was. So now that we have all of our O-rings off, we also need to make sure that we get the O-ring that's down in here. So you'll have to use your pick tool and fish that out of there and pull it out as well, because the kit comes with a new one. This one didn't have one for some reason, because someone's been into it before. So now that we got that all laid out, we have our O-rings from big to small. We know exactly where each one of these goes. So we get our kit. And the kit does come with installation instructions, and it shows you the size of each O-ring and their location. I don't know about you, but trying to measure each one of these O-rings for the ID, OD, and thickness would be way too difficult. So instead, I want to use process of elimination to figure out where each one of these O-rings goes from the kit. So what I do is I start off with matching up the O-ring sizes with my old ones. So I know where each one of the old ones came from. Now I'm also taking into account the thickness. You can tell there's this O-ring that's pretty close to that size or that size, but it's super thin. So I know it can't be one of these ones. This O-ring that's on the inside, that came from the inside of here, it's pretty stout, it's pretty thick. It's not as malleable as the others, not as rubbery. So you can kind of tell the difference. So when we have all those lined up, now what we're left with is these two small O-rings, this one, that O-ring, and this thing. And obviously this brass thing here. So that being said, now I know where at least these go. So then I just start putting it back on. So with the big one, all the way at the top here. Yep, definitely have that right. All right, the outside ones are done. Now the inside one, I just kind of get it in there, get in the groove, use one finger to kind of push it in. Kind of use another one to kind of work it down in there till it just flops into place in there. There you go. Now that part's done. All right, now that we have this all put back together and have all the O-rings on there, I also want to let you know that it's probably a good idea to lubricate these before reassembly. You don't want to put dry O-rings together. So, according to the instructions, there is an O-ring that slides in, that rides in this groove here. There's also something called a slipper seal. I didn't know what a slipper seal was, but it happens to be this blue plastic ring. It's actually Teflon, I think is what the instructions say it is. So we have to find the O-ring that fits in that groove, which would be this one here. And the reason is this one is just too big. So it's definitely not that one. This one is too small. Doesn't fit over there, obviously. These are obviously too tiny. So process elimination, this one's its left. So it goes in that groove like so. Then this is the slipper seal, and it rides on top. Within that groove, rides on top of that O-ring. When you're putting this on, you gotta be careful to not stretch it, or at least don't stretch it very much, because you'll see why here in a bit. This is also another one of those parts, the slipper seal is cross-compatible from the 3/4 inch kit. Ask me how I know. All right, so just like our old one, there is an O-ring that goes in there as well. That is this other smallish O-ring. It slides right in there. All right, so now we have those put back together. Let's get these old things out of the way so we don't get any of them mixed up. Set them aside. Now we're left with 3 O-rings. This one is the one that goes down here at the bottom. Drop it in there and then use your pick tool to kind of push it into place in that little, there's a recessed area for it to ride in. All right. So that's done. Now these other 2 little O-rings are for the bleed screws. There's a bleed screw here on the side and here on the bottom here. That one right there. So I'll just take those bleed screws out. Slip the O-ring on the screw itself and thread it back in. I'm going to tighten it so it's snug. I'm not going to waste it on there. So when you waste it on there, you're going to end up really deforming that O-ring and basically ruining it, or you might have a chance of ruining it, risk of ruining it. So same thing with the one on the side, take the screw out, slip the O-ring onto the screw and tighten back up until it's just good and tight. Just so it's just snug, not wasted on there. All right, so we have used all the pieces that came in the kit, so now it's time for reassembly. Reassembly is just the opposite of this assembly, reverse order. So hopefully you've cleaned everything up to the best of your ability, and you've lubricated your O-rings. Take the shaft and reinstall this bit. Now it's going to be a little bit more difficult because of the new O-ring that's in there, a little tighter. Now, here's where the tricky part comes in. So this cylinder has a chamfered end and it has a 90-degree end. The chamfered end goes towards like this. So, and then this needs to go inside of here. Now, the way that this is right now, you can't just drop that in there. It's not going to fit because of that slipper seal. If you try to work it in there by hand, you might be successful. I wasn't. I've ruined one of these. So the trick that I found was to take the other 2 from the other cylinder, because I assume you're going to be rebuilding both at the same time. Take the non-chamfered end, and by the way, this needs to be oriented in this direction because of the way that it is, that fits in there like that. So naturally, this has to be oriented this way, just like that. So get that started in there, just set it in there. Take the non-chamfered end of the other tube, put it on top, and then you should be able to push it in with some downward force. See, it's kind of already started. So you could do that. You can also take this ram, take this part off again. You could use this to apply pressure to it. Maybe give it a tap or two. And now you're past the slipper seal, and now it's ready to go down. No damage, and that's a good thing. So now that we did that, we gotta put this back on here, same as before. Just work it on there. And then now we can put this back on. Like I said, chamfered end goes this way. And it's gonna be a little bit more difficult now that's a new O-ring on there, but just give it some force. And now you're left with that. Now you can put the bolt back on. And you'll take this to the vise, clamp it here, take your 15/16 socket and tighten that down while it's clamped in the vise. Once you got that tight, then you can put it back in the housing. Screw it back in by hand. And then take this back to the vise, put it in there, then using your tool here, snug that down, get it really tight. And that should complete that. Like I said, there isn't much out there as far as how to do these rebuilds. And knowing what size O-rings goes where, or what size O-rings to buy if you have to build your own kit, could be pretty difficult. So once again, hope this is helpful. Have a good day.